Welcome to Build Your People, the podcast where we tackle the construction industry's biggest HR issues. Today's episode is all about grit, growth, and the power of building something that lasts. We're sitting down with three powerhouse women who've not only broken barriers in construction, but built businesses that thrive. Linda Rabbitt is a trailblazer and the founder of one of the country's most respected commercial construction firms. Kathy Deppe turned her vision into a thriving lighting business, proving that women can lead and light the way in this industry. And Gina Lindquist runs a dynamic firm that does it all, from demolition and disaster recovery to site services and final cleaning, bringing order to chaos and excellence to every job site. Whether you're a student dreaming big, a tradeswoman ready to take the leap, or a business leader looking for inspiration, you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hi, Kathy. How's it going today?
Hey, Jen, how are you doing?
Wonderful. So for anybody watching us on video now, you see we have quite a few guests with us today. I'm very excited for all the girl power in the room right now. I wanted to, one by one, we've got Linda, Gina, and Kathy with us. If you wouldn't take a moment to introduce yourselves, say a little bit about your company and whatever you want our listeners to know about you. Go ahead, Linda.
So my name is Linda Rabbitt, and I'm the founder and executive chairman of Rand Construction Corporation. We've been in business since 1989, and we are now the largest woman-founded, woman-owned commercial general contractor in the country.
That is amazing.
Love it.
Wonderful.
Love it.
Kathy?
Hello to everyone. My name is Kathy Deppe. I'm the president and CEO of Valley Lighting. I've been in business for 60 years, started in 1965 as a retail lighting showroom and quickly grew into a large commercial, retail and commercial lighting showroom and construction house for projects. I was the first female salesperson and the first CEO. Not the first CEO, the first woman CEO.
Amazing. Congratulations. And Gina.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gina Lindquist. I am the president and owner of L4 Property Services. We are one of the many trade partners that support the construction project. We've been in business for 10 years now, and we perform work all across the DMV from Baltimore down to Chantilly, Virginia.
Wonderful. Well, we have, three very unique organizations and three unique women on this call with us. So I wanted to get started with what's your origin story? How did you find your way into the construction industry? And any juicy details you want to share with our listeners? Who wants to get started?
And it's okay if you just stumbled into it.
I'll go first because that's how I got here. I was born into the business, I guess. My father, with a partner, started the company in 1965. And as, just a part-time job when I was either 15 or 16, I wanted to be a salesperson in the lighting showroom, selling table lamps and lighting fixtures, chandeliers, wall sconces, that kind of stuff. So I worked on Saturdays and the store was open on Wednesday nights. So I worked part-time while I went to school, all through high school, college. Then when I graduated from college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I dabbled in business and health and film and wanted to be a newscaster and all kinds of, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to work for my dad's company, went in the accounting department and was there for a little bit and pricing inventory. And they needed a manager over in the commercial department, which I had never had exposure to. I'd always been on the retail side. So I went into the commercial side, managing a bunch of people older than me about something I didn't really know about. So I got my feet wet really quick on the commercial construction side and absolutely loved it. And it's just, I've grown from there and it's been a wonderful experience. And I've learned the business from the ground up and it's just been great.
Great. What about you, Gina?
So similarly to Kathy, since the time I was a little girl, my father is a general contractor of 48 years in the industry. And so I grew up crawling around job sites. and crawling around his office quite a bit. My siblings, each of us from the time of middle school into high school, we each entered the office. My brother, of course, went straight to the job site. My sisters and I joined my father in the office and got a really good feel early on for all that it takes to run a successful construction firm. It's a hardworking industry. From the office to the field, it is a hardworking industry. So initially, early on, post-graduation, I majored in human resources, Kathy, as you as well. And post-graduation, I had dedicated a little more than 10 years of my career in the service industry in human resources, and was just itching for more, quite honest. I had a very close friend and circles of conversations over the course of many, many, many months. We decided to get our feet wet in the disaster services industry initially. He was a subject matter expert. He was the individual working in the field. I was the one running the office. And our story has evolved ever since then. We began, again, disaster services exclusively, and over the course of time, very quickly realized, quite honest, the opportunity in front of us with some of the relationships that we had established over time and the various networking platforms that we began to get involved in. And relationship one, over the course of our first 5 years, turned into about 30, and then the additional 5 years after that turned into almost 60. So it's been quite an interesting story for us along the years.
Amazing.
Great. Linda, what about you?
Well, in my era, women who went to college were told that they should either be a nurse or a school teacher. And I didn't like the sight of blood, so I became a school teacher, teaching English and American history in Fairfax County, Virginia. I really didn't like that, but I, at the time, was getting married to a very wealthy doctor. I had two near perfect daughters. Sadly, he had a declining mental health issues, and I was a battered wife and abused spouse. I left my big home and took my two little girls and started my life over as a secretary at KPMG, the accounting firm. And then I was promoted to something else I knew nothing about, which was marketing. I was the director of marketing, but I got to meet a lot of people in the community. And in 1985, a woman came to me and said that she was going to start the first woman-owned construction company in the Washington area, and she was looking for a partner. And that I wasn't getting any child support, and she said in 3 years I would be able to double my income. So it was a little bit luck and a lot opportunity and just a chance to prove that I could do something. And I absolutely fell in love with business. I'd never had a business degree. I just fell in love with the concept of business, and I fell in love with the industry because I got to see the full range of the workforce in the United States that makes up our entrepreneurial engine in our communities. And in 1989, then I went on my own and started Rand Construction. So I've been a secretary, a CEO, a partridge in a pear tree. My goodness, I've had them all. But this is the one that I love. This was what I was meant to do.
Yeah, Linda,
And
I
just
love, yeah, I was going to say, I love your story because a lot of people ask me why I care so much about, making sure women know the opportunities in this industry. And it's your story. There's so many women that are stuck because of finances and with partners that they shouldn't be with anymore. And this industry clearly gives women a chance to stand on their own. And you all are proof of that too, that you can be successful in the industry as a woman. And thank you for sharing that story with us.
very meaningful.
So I'll just say one thing. I used to be very embarrassed that with my 2 degrees and my father with 19 US patents in automotive engineering, that I had sunk to such a low level in my life. And I didn't talk about my abuse, but when I started talking about it, every time I gave a speech, someone would come up to me and say, "You've just given me the courage to start over."
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
wonderful thing about construction is that there's so many opportunities that women, to your point, really just don't know about or hadn't known about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's certainly so much opportunity, particularly for women in the construction industry. As we know, it's a male, what's the word we're using? Populated industry. And I know me personally, when I started working at Harkins Builders, I led their HR department. One of the first things I was asked was, what are you going to do in the first 30 days? And I said, well, I'm going to put my boots on, my hard hat, and my vest. I'm going to go out to the field and meet all of my customers who are the employees where they are. And I'm also going to find an organization that I can be a represent women in the construction space. So I landed at ABC. I would love to hear your challenges in a male populated industry and how you overcame that. Maybe some of those first uh, trials and tribulations within a male populated industry, and how you gained their trust and really excelled.
So, I don't dress like somebody would think of a construction person. I look more like an architect than I do a general contractor. And at first, the inspectors were the ones who gave me a tough time. Little girl, what do you know about all this? Did your daddy start this business? Did your husband start this business? No, sir, I started this business. So the credibility piece, particularly for me, because I wasn't of this, Kathy and Gina had a background of family in it. And the credibility piece was really the hardest to prove that I really could understand. But I only do commercial interiors. So, I guess they could make the leap that maybe I could vacuum. But it, it was it was always about, what do you know?
Yeah.
And I was called a marketing bimbo.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
you're giving me flashbacks, Linda. Oh my
Oh, I
goodness.
was called worse than that, but
Yeah.
in the beginning, I was, well, she has a marketing background, she's just a marketing bimbo.
I have a similar background where I started in marketing and ran projects. And I'm remembering now that one of my project managers, when they put me on his project, he said, our project's in trouble when they send the marketing department to help. I was not the marketing department. I was a project engineer, right? So it was, yeah. And that was in the 2000s, early
Right.
2000s that this happened. So yeah, not that long ago.
Yeah, I had a similar, I guess, with the whole male, not dominated. What do we call it?
Populated.
Populated,
Right. You can say
male
dominated.
populated industry. Back because I started in the, I guess, very late 80s, early 90s, and I was they took me to manage the female project managers that actually did most of the work, where the guys would be the salespeople and they would make all the money because they were selling the jobs. But it's the females that actually run the work and get it done and do the nuts and bolts of everything and make sure everything runs smooth and all that kind of stuff. And so through, and I did that and I grew into managing projects myself. They wanted me to handle the really large. We started doing multi-million-dollar projects. We did Camden Yards. Oriole Park was our first really big multi-million-dollar contract that we got. And it was super exciting for us to get jobs that big. But still, it was just kind of taboo for women to be in the sales side of things. They were always in the admin side. So after trying and kind of being shot down a little bit, there was a change in our, my dad and his partner had sold out to two new gentlemen that were accountants by trade, came in, didn't know anything about our industry or how we did business. It was an investment for them, but they came in, they rolled up their sleeves, learned the business, but still there was no opportunity for women to move into the sales field and to advance their careers other than being in admin positions. So when there was a little bit of a shakeup in the ownership, and he had left the company, and then I had the courage to go up and say, "Hey, what can I do to try and get in the sales side of things? I've been watching it for 20 years. I think I could really make a difference and help the company grow and move into larger projects." And I was given the opportunity and struggled for a little while because nobody really wanted to deal with female salespeople back then. It was electrical contractors, and it was difficult because they like to scream and yell and do that kind of stuff and use their language, which I grew up in that, so it didn't bother me at all. But I think they felt intimidated or just felt awkward dealing with a female salesperson in a construction industry, on the job sites, that kind of stuff. But it worked out well, and I did eventually become a salesperson, and have worked in sales for about 10 or 15 years before then, being able to welcome the opportunity to put my hat in the ring for a CEO position. So it was a long struggle, but we finally got there, and now we have, out of our 12 salespeople, we have 4 women salespeople now that are very, very successful. So it's great, and we just keep moving them up.
Great.
Gina, what about you? What about your challenges in a male-populated industry?
So I'm at the midpoint in my career from start to finish, 10 years. L4 Property Services opened doors in October of 2014. And quite honest, my gender, being a woman in the construction industry, has really catapulted my business. It has been a game changer for us. Riding the wave of MDOT, MBE, 100% minority, woman-owned, certified. I am cheered when I enter a room. I'm cheered on. So that's honestly been it's catapulted our firm over the course of 10 years, and mainly over the course of the most recent 5 here, because again, our first 5 years in business, drumming up those additional industry contacts to the point where then each one of our proposals, it's led with our certifications. So we're able to boost the general contractors' overall goals toward the project, and it has been quite a game changer for our company. Has not been a deterrent for me at all. I think that it helps also that I'm quite outgoing, but it's catapulted us.
Kathy, can I say that just because of our generation differences, I had to prove that I was actually a serious business person and a leader. And so I went to places like the Washington Building Congress and ended up being the president of it, where I could have conversations with subcontractors and they could get to know me as a leader, as a businesswoman, as a person. And in recent years, it has been wonderful that WeBank and these certification companies have really helped. I think they've helped the subcontractor community a little bit more than the general contractor community. But thank goodness that that people have been applauded, like you are, for taking a risk and doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's your story, Gina, is proof that it has gotten better, right? And I think while it is not completely perfect for women in this industry, and I talk to women every day who are fighting it, daily on job sites, right? But it is better, and we just hope that it continues to get better, and that hope that women such as yourselves and the things that you went through, that paves the way so that it gets easier and easier the more women that come into this industry.
Linda,
So,
I just want to, if I could jump in here real quick, Jen. Linda, you mentioned one time, you said to me that years ago, you would walk into a room of suits. And I had shared with you, I worked for Harkins for many years, and you had said that the Harkins CEO, not Harkins, but Blaze Cook, was always so welcoming to you. Going into a sea of suits, whether it's now or back in your day, Kathy, you've been around for some time. How do you help other women get the courage to do those things and
Yeah,
to really feel confident that I've got this and I'm doing this and I'm going to make a difference?
yeah. I had a similar, I guess, experience back when I was younger. I was in my 20s, and I wanted to be active in the Illuminating Engineering Society, but it was all male populated. There was no, I don't think there was many female members at all. It was back in the probably the early 90s. And same thing. You would go and you go to a meeting. It was all male. And I just enjoyed the conversation of, it was more about learning about the industry rather than men versus women. And I would bring some of my women coworkers with me to some of the events. And eventually I ran for office. It was funny because I first ran for secretary, figured I worked my way up in the organization, but I wasn't even a member yet. And they're like, well, that's great, but you have to be a member first. So I became a member and then was elected and moved up the ranks to eventually be the president of the society. And it just, from there on, I just remember there being not very many women, but every year there'd be one or two more that would join, and it just kept getting more and more and more. And I started running the annual crab feast, which maybe only had 20 or 30 people. And by the time I was done, which I'm still active in the industry, but for or the organization 20 years, now we have 300-400 people that come to the event, and it's 50-50 women, men, and even more women engineers now, I think, than men in a lot of these roles. So it's just been, I've seen a complete turnaround in the last 20-30 years with where women are generally welcomed and much more accepted into the construction industry and the general contractors, electrical contractors offices.
awesome.
So Kathy, as a general contractor, when we go to do a pitch now for new business, if we don't have a diverse team on our side, we're that doesn't bode well for our winning the work. So,
Right.
I used to say that, I can't boil the ocean, but society has been more accepting as more and more women have gotten into the workforce and have proven their value. So it now, we're desperate to have more people of color and women at the table.
Yeah.
I love that. And honestly, as a former business development person, I would scream when I was handed a slate of just white guys that had to go interview for a project, because a lot of times on the owner's side, it is a lot of women that are choosing who's going to pick the next winning team. And we definitely got dinged. And I think there were some times that some people were disingenuous with how they put their teams together too. They will put the same person on all the projects, or they will put someone that's really not going to work on it because they are a diverse individual. So I love that you guys are living and breathing the actual, you have diverse teams that are going after stuff, because it is important that we make really intentional choices when we are pitching our teams out, and also in hiring too. All right. So when it gets, if we can take a second to go into each one of you and ask you individually about your careers. Linda, you talked about founding, you're a nationally recognized, the largest woman-owned general contracting business. Like, that's amazing.
Mhm.
What does it really take to get an organization to be that successful in this industry? It didn't happen by accident. So what is your advice, and what do you think your secret sauce is?
So when I started Rand, I don't know if it was my teaching background or my marketing background, but I said I was going to start Rand with the 4 R's of Rand. The first one was resilience, because if you can't work hard and overcome obstacles or crisis management, you cannot make it in this business. The second one was relationships, and how deeply, deeply important they are, because so much of our industry is built on trust. The third one was reputation, and to make sure that every time you go out in the marketplace, you have a satisfied customer. And the fourth one was results. So if you could pick yourself up and brush yourself off and go on to win again another day, if you did it through great relationships, if you created your own reputation as an honorable person to do business with, and you got results, that was our secret sauce.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Kathy, what about you and your family business? What do you feel it's taken to, obviously you've been around since 1965, so you're doing something right, and you're
Right.
part of that now as the CEO and all of the positions before that.
Exactly. As Linda said, our main thing is the building of the relationships, and that's what my father taught me growing up. Good hard work ethic was the main thing for me. I could never, I lived with him when I was young and going to school, so I never was able to miss a day of work, and I was never able to be sick. I was never, and still to this day, I could count on one hand the days I've called in sick. I just, there's no time for getting sick for me. You just, it's very hard work ethic. The culture here has just been amazing, and I've continued to keep that and to try and grow that to everybody that I work with and mentor here, and make it a fun, exciting place to work. We're high on trustworthiness and integrity, just like Linda said, because without that, if you don't have a good product, and if you don't have good customer service, if you don't have good communication with your customers, we don't have a company. It's all about building those relationships, because we want the next job. We don't want to just do good on this job, but we want to do the next job and the next job and the next job. And it's just been, we've just grown and grown and grown based on those relationships and our ability to service the customer and basically jump through hoops and do whatever it takes. We'll work through the night. We'll if we need to get material from point A to point B, we'll put it in our own trucks to get it there. If we can't find a truck, we'll, if something was supposed to get on a plane and it accidentally got put on a truck, we'll intercept it midway and get it to the job site to get the job done on time. So it's just been a lot of, doing what it takes to get it done. And we've got that, that culture here that everybody knows. It's all about, each other. It's all about teamwork, team building, and basically ultimately the customer and making them happy.
So building off that, Kathy, obviously this is your organization your father started, but how did you make it your own while also honoring his legacy?
And that's where I got into the culture part, and I have a open door policy, which is sometimes good and sometimes not so good, because there's always somebody in my office all the time. I like to be, I'm a female, so I think it's easier for some people to talk to me and harder for others, I guess. But I finally had to get my HR manager put a sign on my thing that has a little circle where you can I'm in a meeting, do not disturb, that kind of thing. But
Visiting hours.
exactly. I think I'm much more approachable than the all male dominated predecessors that were before my time. People were basically, and I know I was one of them, afraid to ask for time off. You were afraid to ask for your own vacation that you were entitled to back in the day because it was strong male dominated leadership. Now it's much more open, and we have remote work now, which we obviously never had back then.
Right.
It's just a much more casual atmosphere, and just I've tried to make it a place where people want to come and feel welcomed and feel like they're wanted. And we offer a lot of continuing education. We offer a lot of great benefit just maybe 3 or 4 years ago, which has been a huge help. And, people are saying that, we've helped change their lives because it's just, giving them an opportunity to do things they could never do before. So I think just being available and being there for people when they need to talk.
Sounds like more personable, and some work-life balance has been brought into your company.
Definitely.
Culture.
Which I think, is a must in business today, because it's hard to keep good talent. As everybody knows, we have very, very little turnover. We had a problem with, nobody ever left. So then we had a very aging workforce with not a lot of young people. So we have a big gap, and they retired. We hired young ones. So there's not a lot in the middle there, because we had a mass exodus, but it was because of retirement, not because people were leaving because they were unhappy. So it's always been it's been a great place to leave. We've certainly had some turnover, but overall, I still have quite a few people that have been here 40 plus years.
Wow, that's
fantastic.
Yeah.
I've heard, Kathy, early on, you mentioned we did XYZ. We said we would do this, and then we would figure out and make it happen. And so this is a good transition to Gina, where you're in a fast-paced, got a crisis, needs some demolition or remediation on a project. Talk to us about that and how you've been able to grow and sustain this fast-paced level of work.
So it was wonderful to listen to both Linda and Kathy talk about their pillars towards success over the years, because it certainly tells me that we are building our pillars quite well, because I heard you echo each of the same sentiments. Game changers for us over 10 years: consistency and performance, number one. Number two, safety. From our perspective, we take safety very seriously, and we are constantly complimented on that. The number one goal, we always say, none of us gets to do this over tomorrow unless we take care of each other today. So we have teams that really do look out for one another on the job site, and the general contractor is the first to compliment us on that. I hear that all the time, and it makes me feel like we're doing something right. Aside from, again, the consistency of performance, upholding safety and actually meaning it and taking it quite seriously. And the relationship piece, of course, you heard me mention first 5 years to then this back half, the second 5 years. It's been following up with our clients and really taking the time to nurture the relationships from the office to the job site. We don't ignore one or the other. I visit personally about 50 job sites a month. I get in front of our clients. I thank them for the business that they've awarded to our team. I talk to them about our performance on the job site, and I ask the questions, what can we be doing to improve upon what we've established thus far? And we get into the office and we give presentations to make sure that the general contractor understands the resource that we are able to be to them, the complete resource we call ourselves, from the point where they're dropping the trailer to the point where they are turning over the project to the owner. And the last piece that Kathy certainly touched on, culture. Culture has been quite a game changer for our company over, I'll call the most recent 3 years. We took time to really step back, We have very low turnover as well. And coming from the point of being a subcontractor on the job site, it can be quite a troublesome bucket or can of worms to be in. But we take the time once a month to get about a third of our team together at our office to talk about our successes, to talk about some of the pain points, to train and retrain on safety, to break bread, have a meal, and celebrate one another. So one of the best compliments in 10 years that I actually have received in the most recent year here was that someone in our office said that we do culture better than anyone that they've experienced in the industry so far. So I know we're doing that right. So those have been our pillars.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
All right.
I'm wondering what is one decision. We've heard some, your milestones in your careers. I'm wondering if there's a decision that you can like pinpoint that helped change the trajectory of your career. Sometimes it's just accepting a job offer. Sometimes it's a conversation. Wondering, you guys can think of any of that.
I have one immediately. I don't mind sharing. For me, again, 10 years in business. For us, it was the decision to diversify. Our first 2 years exclusively, we performed disaster restoration services as a subcontractor, branched out to then begin providing selective demolition services, because when you are resolving a flood, a problem with mold, a problem with a fire, you're performing demolition services. So diversifying into demo, then adding final cleaning, construction cleaning onto our service portfolio, our portfolio of services, and then the last being site labor services. So our decision to diversify, each of our first 4 years in business, we placed a lot of emphasis in one lane versus another, to then get to the point where we place emphasis evenly on each of those service offerings. So that's been a big differentiator for us.
And how did you make that decision, right? You made the decision, but what thought went into it?
Honestly, we had some clients that asked the question, why on earth pinpoint yourself in just that one direction, when obviously you have proven that you have the technical ability to be able to take on an additional service offering within the business. So from disaster to demo, it was quite an easy transition for us. And then in both of those verticals, you're cleaning. And we again had a client that said, why not consider adding a third service offering within the company as well? So conversation and listening to our clients along the way has really been what's allowed us to give it a go.
I'd have to say that mine was, through my experience in my 20s, was I made a decision that I wasn't going to ever again let anyone define who I was, that I was going to define who I was. And when we were sort of stuck here in Washington, competing against the same general contractors over and over again in our space, I decided that we were going to go national, and that if we were going to do high-end commercial interiors and capex work for developers, that unless we added new lines of business like you did, Gina, we were going to add new geographies. And that has really, really been a game changer for us, because the kind of work that we do, those same kinds of organizations, corporations, accounting firms, consulting firms, law firms, are in all the major cities where so our clients took us to other cities. Why don't you open an office in Atlanta? Why don't you open an office in Denver? So you and I got to the same place in different routes.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
What about
awesome.
you, Kathy?
Yes. Well, I guess it's sort of similar in that my original answer would be just staying at Valley, because I wasn't planning on staying at all. I was planning on going to Wall Street and working there and going into business somewhere and selling stocks and bonds and that kind of stuff. But did not do there, stayed at Valley, which I'm ecstatic that I did, because I just love working with, I'm a people person. So it just worked out better because I get to talk to tons of people all day long in the company and outside the company, at the electrical contractors and wherever. I get to talk to all the customers and the people that work here. But one thing that happened with growing the business, before I took over as CEO, we had started we diversified and opened a shading division, window treatments, which has nothing to do with lighting, other than Lutron got us involved because of the motorized shades. We're a big Lutron distributor with controls and things like that. They got into the window treatment business and asked if we would get in with them as a partner to try and be the distributor to push the products and things like that on commercial projects, which we did. But they had no specification sales at all. They were very weak in that area. So we were having to take, and it's a company called Mecco is very large in that space, and we would have to take every job and cross it over. So it was very, a lot of work and time consuming and very expensive. The division struggled, had good years, bad years over the next 10 years, more bad than good. And the board at the time, I was CEO at this time. It was within the last 10 years, I guess it was probably 8 years ago. I'd only been CEO very short amount of time, maybe a year or two. But we had to make the decision to shut the division down or keep the division open. And the vote was to shut it down. And I overruled as the CEO. I said, I can't do that in good conscience. It's 20 employees that wouldn't have a job. I said, we can turn this thing around. We can get new leadership over there. The leadership had left. It was a big mess. So myself and the CFO, we basically moved our offices over there and camped out there for 6 months and really, rolled our sleeves up and worked in that division, which we really didn't know a lot about because we always had a different leadership group running that. And it's highly, highly successful today. So I'm ecstatic that we made that decision, that I made the decision, I guess, to not shut down the division. And it's a very profitable and successful division now. And we have great leadership over there right now. So it was probably one of the best decisions that I've made over the last 10 years since I've been in charge.
In my space, human resources, oftentimes I'll go into organizations, and if it's a women's group or the HR leader I'm mentoring and it's a female, I ask the question, do you take on a project or a task if you know 75% of it, or do you need to know 100%? And oftentimes it's, for women, I need to know 100%. But clearly the three of you took some significant risk. And I would venture to guess it was 65, 70, maybe even less, that you went all in. Maybe it was 50% or lower, who knows, but went all in and said, okay, I'm going to keep that space open, or I'm going to diversify in geography or services. Was there any doubt? How do you handle that, whether you have doubt in yourself or someone else that may be leading that venture for your organization? And what advice can you give people, and particularly women, to suppress that doubt and just go for it?
I think I doubt myself all the time on decisions. And what I do is I just write the pros and the cons and just, I don't do anything. I don't make decisions like quickly, which is good and bad, I guess. I like to methodically think about things and think about the ramifications of long-term, how it's going to end up, how it's going to affect the people that work here, how it's going to affect the customers and things like that. Get fingerprints on the gun. If you're just not sure, my CFO is somebody that I talk to all the time about stuff, and we just kind of bounce ideas off each other. And, like I said, go through the pros and the cons of whatever it is that we're struggling with, and come up with the best decision to, move the company forward.
So I'd have to say that my mentor, who was the managing partner of KPMG all those years ago, used to say to me, what decision would you make if you took fear out of the equation? If you weren't afraid, what decision would you make? And so then you have to ask what you were afraid of, which leads me to my second piece of advice that I give other women. Men generally do not give women feedback. They're afraid that they're going to hurt them or upset them, that they're going to cry or they're going to yell, or that men don't actually know how to do that as well as women do. So I say, go to the males in your organization and say, Joe, I think I did okay with this project, but what could I have done to improve? What are the things I really need to do? Or when after giving a pitch, I thought I hit the point, but could I have said it better or done it better? That gives women the courage when they get that kind. First of all, you have to give people permission to give you feedback. And then it gives you the courage to really have more self-confidence, have more ability to own your decisions. I always say that, my biggest downfall is that I had the disease to please. And and anyone who's in a service business really has that. So you have to know when you have to get feedback. And as a woman, I've always had to ask for feedback and give people permission to tell me how I could have done better.
I love that. So
I do
one
too.
thing that I think I've heard, and we've probably all have heard the term of imposter syndrome. And I've actually heard some idea that imposter syndrome is actually kind of made up, that women are judged often as leaders, not on criteria that makes them a great leader. It's what they're judged on criteria that make men great leaders. So it's hard to live up to criteria that weren't created with you in mind, right? So that's where the imposter syndrome leads. So with that in mind, what do you think makes you obviously all very successful, right? And you're women. So like what if there's anything that you have that makes you more successful because you're a woman, like what do you do differently than maybe the men that have either come before you or your competition that makes your organizations have glowing reviews from the subcontractors you work for and being asked to move all over the world to open up new offices and new product lines?
Well, I don't mean to keep going first, but because there were so many things I didn't know in the beginning, I sort of took the philosophy of the best idea wins. And in organizations that were very hierarchical, the boss said, we're going to do this and this is how it's going to be. And we all marched down the field. In my organization, we sat around and discussed and debated issues of the day. And it didn't always have to be my idea, which gave people the confidence to think that they were actually part of the solution. So I still have that to this day. I have 9 partners, so there are 10 of us on our board. The best idea wins. And that's what really gives the what Gina called the culture of acceptance to each other. That's what the glue is to keep people rowing on the same side of the same, however that is, pulling on the same side of the rope, because they do think that they're invested in it. The old model of top down is not working anymore. What's working today is servant leadership.
Mhm.
Love that.
Agree.
Yeah,
What
I
about
mean-
you, Gina?
Well, I would say that I think one thing about myself, I'm quite a nurturer. So our 10-year story, yes, it's about having the right persons in leadership positions within the company, but it's also about nurturing them as well. So Jennifer, I've never been someone that I compare myself to another person differently, whether they're male or female. But perhaps that nurturing tone has benefited me in my role and with my company a bit more over years than you might say a male in my position. I care a lot. I wear my heart on my sleeves, and I really nurture my people. The moment when they find themselves doubting, Kathy, much like you asked about as well, when they find themselves doubting is when I step in and nurture the most, because that's how you reap the best out of your team. Telling them what they can do, not telling them what they can't do.
Mhm.
Sounds to
We're
me.
very, very
Go ahead,
team oriented here. So it's, everything's teamwork. And if somebody's struggling, and they'll come to me, we'll get together with somebody else that can maybe mentor them. And even some people, they don't feel challenged or things like that. We'll get them in a different position where they can actually use their skills a little bit better. And if they're not happy and don't want to be here, then then I haven't done my job. And so it's all about making, same as Gina said, kind of catering to the emotions of the employees to help them make the best of themselves, to so that they can excel and be proud of what they're doing, and always looking to move forward and advance and to grow.
Basically, the three of you are transformational leaders, not transactional. And I think that is, the difference between women. We've talked about it a few times, I think, on this podcast. But I think that's the secret sauce that you all have figured out in one way, shape, or form, is that you're helping your team see the big picture, see the big picture for themselves too, not just for your organization. And I love that anti-hierarchy aspect too, that you talked about, Linda. That's something I strive every day. And sometimes it's easier said than done too, right? I guess you do still, like Kathy used that veto power. You still have to have that, I think, occasionally when there's no, so I'm wondering how you balance the two, right?
Well, Kathy had the best idea. The best idea won. She wasn't going to give up. She wasn't going to give up.
And we kept talking about
Resilience.
that. I just can't find it in my heart to do that. It just doesn't seem like the right thing, even though they're losing money. And I said, but we can fix it. I know we can fix it. And, what we did, we just took baby steps. We had taken 2 really big jobs that just, with the leaders of the division had left. So we got through it. It was a struggle, but, I said, let's just do baby steps and let's back up a little bit and not take these, monster jobs anymore. Let's just take ones in the sweet spot, like the $200,000-$300,000 jobs. We can get them done and quick and easy. We can manage them much easier. We can staff them much better and grow from there. And we're back up to where we were, but much more organized, and everybody knows what they're doing now. And it's a well-oiled machine over there now, and as is on the lighting side too. So it's, just got to sometimes step back and look at what's not going correct for the organization and just scale it back a little bit, and then you can move forward, and you learn a lot of lessons that way. So I've always been, I've never wanted to grow too fast, and I've seen a lot of my competitors, electrical contractors, really not competitors as much, just go out of business, I guess, from growing too fast. And also we did a lot of, retail work. Just one of our national accounts, they bought another company and it doubled their size overnight pretty much. And it after 3 years, they went out of business. It was just, they weren't ready to handle that extremely large, quick growth. And you have to be prepared for things like that. Yeah. And plan. So we've always had like small incremental growth, and maybe too slow for some people, but it's been my speed and it's worked out well.
We have well over 100 years of experience here on the call. And as I'm aging myself, I think about legacy. So when you think about your legacy, what does that look like for you?
What do you hope it looks like for you?
Or what do you hope it looks like?
I mean, what we implemented here, I guess a couple of years ago, was what's called the PDP program, professional development program, for people so that we could get them, they come in as a estimator or a salesperson or a project manager, accounting, whatever. But I want people our organization is not that big. We have about 60 people, but I want them to move around the organization and see what else they might like, so that they can, they may be a better fit for somewhere else. And, they get bored doing the same thing. So I'm still actively encouraging people to do that. But I guess it's good and bad. People like their jobs so much here that they don't want to try anything new. A lot of them, they're just happy. And I meet with them every so often. I'm like, so where do you want to be in 5 years? What do you want to be doing? I like it. I like my job. I don't want to do anything else, but you do need to build leaders for the future. You need management for the future. You need, we're not going to live forever. We all need, we need the young people to step up. So I'm trying to encourage the younger people to take on more responsibility. I need to start delegating more. I have been, but even more so in the next 5 years or so. And just give them, let them do what they're going to slip up and make mistakes, but let them, because that's the only way that people learn, is to do it. They can't be told how to do things. They have to do it themselves.
I really appreciate the fact that you allow people to take on different roles. Oftentimes they get into a role and they're pigeonholed. Maybe their manager keeps them there, or there's not a lot of opportunity within the organization. So I certainly appreciate that, and your willingness to allow people to move around. And I also appreciate the succession planning piece.
Right. And
A lot of
continuing
companies
education.
forget that.
Yeah. I strongly, encourage anybody to do that.
So the biggest compliment anyone has ever given me in my role at RAND is somebody coming into my office and saying, I just want you to know you changed the trajectory of my life. I had lost my job and you believed in me and you took care of me, and I'm a better person for it. So I hope my legacy is that I did such a good job of mentoring and nurturing and caring about everything you have to care about in business, that I left behind leaders who could do it even better than I could.
Well said. What about you, Gina?
I love that, Linda. Gosh, that
Yeah.
really touched me. So we're working really hard as a team right now to become the competition. Quite honest, at 10 years in business, we have a lot more growing to do. We have a lot more people to touch along the way, and I really tremendously admire what my father has been able to accomplish in his career. It's one of the main reasons why I'm doing this today. So to see from the perspective that I sit in, almost 50 years, it'll be 50 years in the industry in about a year and a half now, and to see all that he has accomplished and paved the way for his team, I want this company to become one of the defining leaders in the industry from a trade partner's perspective, for our resourcefulness, for our talent, for the ways that we're able to constantly innovate ourselves as well. So from my perspective, as we're gaining a lot of momentum and steam here, is to become a leader in the industry.
Right.
So if you, we're getting close to the end here. So what's one piece of advice that you'd give to a young woman who wants to start her own construction business today?
I would say it takes a team. 10 years for me it's been all about hiring the right talent at the right point in time, much like Kathy spoke about, one of our secrets has been growing steadily, growing slowly, and bringing on the right hire in the right moment to take on a particular facet of the business or to help to accomplish the work at the job site level, for example. So it's about the team. It's all about the team for me. It's never been about a singular what I can do to grow the business. It's about what each one of us has been able to do together as a team. So
I would just say, to continue on that same theme, I guess, be persistent, confident, find yourself a mentor or a group of mentors that are experienced, that can help you along the way, that have maybe retired and have seen it all and just want to help you. Because without myself having that, then I would never be where I am today. I've had 4 or 5 wonderful mentors over my 45-year career here, and every one of them has taught me something different about different aspects of business and life and customers and relationships and all that kind of stuff. Just suck up every bit of information that you can. Knowledge is power, and just learn all you can from whoever you can get it from. And you'll find some people want to help you more than others. And if somebody doesn't want to help you, that's fine. Just move on. And, you can't worry about rejection. We all get rejection. But eventually it'll all work out if you've got the drive and, if it's something that you want to go after, then you can do it. Anybody can do it.
And I guess I would say you're going to make mistakes. That's not what's going to define you. What's going to define you is how you overcome the mistakes that you made.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I say to people here, I don't mind you making mistakes, just don't keep making the same one and expecting a different outcome.
Definition of stupidity.
Right. But Kathy, I do like what you say about knowledge is power, and continuous learning is really, really important, because the CEO that I became was not the president that I started out with when I started RAND in 1989. I had to learn how to grow and stretch and build new muscles and overcome lots of mistakes and lots of fears and lots of rejection. And if you never make a mistake, you've never learned anything.
Mm-hmm.
So learning, as it turns out, see, my teaching
Full circle.
comes full circle. You have to keep learning.
I really love that. Well, we're going to do real fun question at the end. Finish this sentence. Success in construction looks like.
Me.
I love it. Linda.
Love it.
mine is my team. Mine is our team and what we've been able to accomplish in 10 years. My team.
Team.
Great.
I'm just going to say, being a problem solver, always be open-minded to alternate ways to accomplish things and get things done. And building relationships is the key to success, at least in our industry.
Amazing.
Love it.
You guys have been so inspirational. I want to thank you so much. That's a wrap on today's episode of Build Your People. Huge thanks to Linda, Kathy, and Gina for reminding us that success in construction isn't just about what you build, it's about who you become while building it. So if their stories light a fire in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode, subscribe, and leave us a review. And remember, if you don't have to wait for permission to lead. Build your skills, build your team, build your business, and build your people. So until next time, stay bold and keep building.